You are listening to the Novel Writing Podcast, episode 160. I'm your host, Colleen Mitchell. Grab a cup, cozy up, and let's get to writing. Today's episode is the first 5 of 10 productivity tips for writers that I've both used myself and have seen used successfully by authors I work with in our coaching and critique group. These are in no particular order and are not all-inclusive, so if there's a particular tip that works for you that isn't on this list, we would love to hear it. So let's dive right in. Number 1, decide in advance what you want to work on before you sit down to write. Let's say you have an hour set aside to write, but normally when you get to that hour, you stare at the screen for 20 minutes, trying to figure out what you're even going to work on. If you write chronologically, but you're stuck at a particularly tough scene, this can feel like time wasted. And if you write out of order, not knowing what to work on next means lost time to work on anything. Why this works. If you choose in advance, whether it's in the hour before starting or at the end of the previous writing session, your brain is primed to work on a specific problem in the draft. The longer you give your brain to prime or noodle on the next session, the faster you can get working, and that means a maximized writing session. Practically, this means choosing something specific like writing an interaction between 2 characters or focusing on writing a visually rich description in the next scene. Number 2, time block or time box your writing time on the calendar, especially a shared calendar. Why this works. Time boxing is a tried and true method of planning your time in such a way that you're focused on that one thing for that amount of time. When writing, the more we can get into deep work mode, the better our writing is. If you have a shared calendar with family, blocking out your time can help cut down on the distractions or interruptions if you establish expectations around how your writing time is to be treated. Of course, if you don't honor the time block you give yourself, then other people won't either. So if you have trouble with sticking to the calendar, then you'll need to build up your stamina and discipline for that first. Number 3, use a Pomodoro timer to focus your attention for shorter periods of time and to get over the hump of starting. Why this works. So I don't know about you, but there's something about seeing a timer ticking down that incentivizes me to fit in as much work as I can into the time that's left on the timer. It's kind of a competition with myself to just see how much I can do in that time. Pomodoro timers are all over the internet, but the most basic version is 25 minutes of work followed by 5 minutes of a break. After 4 sets, you get a longer break. Obviously, you could use this in a variety of different ways, whether it's just 25 minutes on a timer to get started and then you stop paying attention to the timer, or you can adjust the intervals. Some people work better with 45 minutes on and 15 minutes off. The point of a Pomodoro timer is to jog your brain into work mode for a short focused period of time, knowing that you have a break coming up. That reduces the likelihood of getting distracted during the Pomodoro session if you're clear on what your goal is for those 25 minutes. As an example, I used a 30-minute timer to work on this episode, and it was far more effective than not having a timer and constantly getting distracted. I tend to pair Pomodoro sprints with background music without vocals, so usually epic music of some kind. I also avoid any movie soundtracks that I recognize because that can tend to pull me into wanting to watch the movie rather than working on what I have planned to work on. Number 4, write with friends if y'all can agree not to interrupt each other. Why this works. Working together in silence is called the body double effect. When you're working on your book while your friends are also working on their books, you're more likely to actually focus on your book and, at the same time, you're more likely to make more progress than you do if you're working alone. You get a boost in focus and productivity because you have this silent layer of accountability, even if you don't share your progress at the end. It reduces procrastination, especially if you're in person with those friends. We use the body double effect quite often in our coaching and critique group with work sprints, which are regular blocks of time where we're all on camera but muted and working on our projects. Usually we'll put in the chat what we're working on, and then at the end we'll come back and share how that went. Some of our members get insane word counts during these sessions, simply because of how focused they get with other people virtually surrounding them. Number 5, change up your writing location every now and then. Why this works. We get used to our spaces, but if we get too used to it, our brains can use that as an excuse to stop performing how we expect to when we sit down to write. One of our coaching and critique members had great success writing in her bedroom, but then had to start writing in her kitchen when the bedroom stopped being conducive to creativity. And then when the kitchen stopped working, the bedroom worked again. You might have to move around a bit to find places that can really help you tap into your creativity, whether it's someplace in your home, or at a library, or a coffee shop, or some other place that's not listed. For me, something as simple as moving from the office to the couch helped break a block that I had when I was working on my second book. Now, next week, we'll cover the last 5 of these productivity tips, but in the meantime, have any of these worked for you in the past? We would love to hear from you about your experience. And to tell us, there is a link in the description to text us. That is it for today's episode. Thanks for joining me, and remember, the first draft is supposed to be garbage. Thanks for listening to the Novel Writing Podcast. If you're ready to stop struggling and start finishing your novel, check out the 60-Day Novel Writing Challenge. It's a step-by-step program designed for solo writers to complete their first draft with clarity and focus. Visit the link in the description to learn more.